I am Samantha Rogers, Eating Clean, Cooking Dirty. If you see this, you probably already know me. If you don't, it's because somebody thought that you might find this interesting and they shared it on their page. So if you are watching this and you want to share this information with somebody, please go ahead and share. Hey, Liz. I've been meaning to read this Bloomberg article, and I don't know if anybody has checked it out lately, but there is a Bloomberg article that came out recently, and when this is all done, I'm going to conclude the link in the notes in the comments. So the title of the article is "Americans Are Dying Younger, Saving Corporations Billions," right? And it really kind of gets you a little bit, and you're like, wait, what? We are supposed to be the leading country in life expectancy, in wealth, in technology, in all of these different areas. We are one of the leaders, and some would argue the leader of Western civilization. And so you would think that we should probably have the longest life expectancy, and ours should probably be continuing to go up. If you look at the statistics, if you read this article, our life expectancy as a country, so I'm just talking about Americans for the moment, has gone up about 1% per year since 1950. And for the first time in our history, since 1950, our life expectancy has gone down. So the life expectancy of somebody who is 65 today has gone down, which is staggering. And this sounds like it's just a small little thing, like, oh, whatever, maybe something happens. Sometimes with war or epidemics, you'll see life expectancy go down. I'm sorry, I have this weird hair thing and I can't handle it. But that's not the case. This is only data that has recently come out. And what it's saying is life expectancy has not only gone down, but it's gone down so much that corporations, major corporations, Intel, what are some of the other corporations I'm looking in this article that have been quoted in here? The major corporations of our country has reduced their liability for retirement pensions. What on earth does that mean, right? That means that people who are retiring, people from at age 65 today, are expected to live a shorter amount of time than they were 5 years ago. Just 5 years ago, they're expected to live shorter. And that difference is so big that it is projected to save private corporations in America billions, with a capital B. Thanks, honey. It is projected to save corporations billions. They have reduced their financial obligations. And I'm saying this and you're wondering, like, why on earth does this matter? It doesn't matter to me. But maybe you don't work for a corporation. Maybe your husband doesn't work for a corporation, or your wife or your partner or whatever. And why does this matter? But when corporations that are producing revenue in the billions are looking at their financial responsibility, they are looking at actuary tables, they are looking at life expectancy, they are looking at what are they going to have, the risks that they're going to have to take on in order to fulfill their obligations to their people. And they're saying that their employees, the people that are the core of the American workforce, are dying younger. And there's a lot of statistics and data supporting that it is white Americans that are one of the major groups that are dying younger. And overall, Americans as a whole, that's really, really sad, really scary. And And I want to talk about my connection, my theories behind this. I believe that this has to do with the nutrition that we're consuming, with the lifestyle that we have cultivated in our society over the last 50 years. I'm not 50, you might not be 50 either, but we are part of it. For some of us, our parents are part of it, depending on how old your parents are. And we have an opportunity and an obligation to change that, to make some conscious choices, to make a difference. Because while like statistics take in a large population when they're running those numbers, change doesn't happen in a large group. Change doesn't happen in a large data set. Change happens at home, at your dinner table, with your family, with your friends, and it has a compounding effect on it. And I really hope that I'm explaining this well enough. And I read this article and I get really riled up, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna calm down. I'm gonna do Facebook Live tomorrow about it. And then I'm like, nope, I gotta get on here and I gotta talk to you guys about it, because I am just so sad to read that. And I am a numbers person. I am a process person. If you know anything about me, you know that I did, my background is in business and numbers and analysis and process change management, blah, 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 whatever that means. But I like numbers. I like changes in numbers. I like changes in basic steps. And one of the things that I built my foundation on in my business, in my meal plans, was finding that 1% improvement. 1% improvement is something that athletes talk about a lot. And you might find that you're not an athlete, doesn't matter. But here's why it matters to everybody, no matter what. And why that Bloomberg article and this other article that I'm gonna share in the Harvard Business Review on finding that 1% improvement in performance matters to everybody. And you have an opportunity and you have a choice to decide how you can take in that information, that statistics, that's a big picture and a big population set, and take in the information on how you might find your 1% improvement and figure out how that matters and that can be implemented in your life, in your household, in your world. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I found it. Excuse me. Some of you already know I love food. I love nutrition. I went down a crazy health and wellness journey in my early 20s. I had 4 colonoscopies and 3 endoscopies before I was 30. I discovered the paleo diet, which was basically just eating whole nutrient-dense foods, and changed my life. A few years later, I had my daughter. Things fell off the wagon. I could not stop eating a croissant ham and cheese sandwich every day. I'm not kidding. This is life. This is reality. And I couldn't figure out how to get out of the cycle. I couldn't figure out how to eat well again, work out again, work full-time outside the home, take care of my family obligations, take care of my personal care obligations, take care of my work obligations, and commute 30 to 60 minutes each way for work on top of that. And my husband was doing even more commuting at the time, and we were just beating ourselves up. And finally I said no. I said, no, we're gonna stop this, and we're gonna stop, and I'm gonna dedicate some time to figuring out how I can make some very small changes. So finding that 1%, because that 1% improvement is not looking at this big picture in our life and how can we make all the changes. I'm gonna change my diet and my life and all the choices I make tomorrow, and I'm gonna be super skinny and I'm gonna have a six pack and my kids are gonna eat perfectly all day long and my husband and I are never gonna have a fight ever again. That's not real, it's not gonna happen. You don't make those kinds of changes in a day. What you can make is that 1% improvement. And that could be as little for you as committing to drinking a glass of water with a wedge of lemon as soon as you wake up every morning. And for some of you, that could be taking your 15-minute walk on your 15-minute break. If you're working in an office, 15-minute break, taking your 15 minutes and walking. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter, just walk, right? For me and my family, that was walking actually on my 15-minute break when I was working in an office. That made a huge difference. That was one of my 1% improvements. So it's all about those small changes that make those big statistics that are really scary and really frustrating eventually go away. It's not going to happen overnight, but you and I and the rest of the world, we can have a compounding effect on those bigger statistics, on the fact that people are dying younger than they have ever done since 1950. So let's work together and let's figure out what that 1% improvement is for each of us, because it's going to be different for each of us, but we can support each other to figure out what that is and hold each other accountable, hold ourselves accountable. And so for me, a number of years ago, that 1% improvement, there were two. I'm going to have 2% improvements. One was walking at my 15-minute break. Every 15-minute break. I had 2 a day when I was working in a corporate office, and I walked. I actually had a group. It was part of a group. It wasn't my group. I was part of a group. And we walked. And we got just about a mile every 15 minutes, twice a day. So twice a day, I all of a sudden bumped up to walking 2 miles extra a day, and made a huge difference in my health and wellness journey after I had my daughter. The other thing that I did was sitting down and looking at how I used to meal plan and meal prep and saying, okay, new reality, because I have a kid now and my schedule is insane. What is my new reality? What can I do on Sunday? I'm going to give myself 2 hours on Sunday at the most to get food prepped and ready so that I have little to no cooking time for breakfast and dinner. And my lunches are pre-packed. And that was a huge thing. People look at meal prep and it gets kind of overwhelming. Oh, I can't do that. I can't give it the time. I can't do this. I can't do that. And it's a whole lot of excuses. And for some people, maybe it doesn't work. But for most people, it's really a matter of excuses, a fear of change, and maybe a little bit of not understanding the impact that it can make in your life. And when I did that, I started eating well again. I started feeding my partner well again. I started making sure that my daughter had consistently good food every single day. When she was going to school, when she was having breakfast, all the things was all about getting the right nutrients in my family, into my people, into my body, without spending a lot of time in the kitchen. And I found that 1% improvement. And I used my business skills for analysis combined with my cooking skills and my passion for cooking and really good food to do this. And it turned into a business. And that's awesome. But really what I want to talk about is how we can all do that together. And maybe your 1% is not meal prep, and maybe your 1% is meal prep, and maybe it's just walking or adding water. There are a lot of different things. But we need to stop thinking in this bigger world, in this bigger picture of our lives, and start thinking about the tiny, minute changes that we can make excuse me, to the process that is our day that can help us find that 1% improvement. And it's an ongoing thing. You never reach 100%. You never reach the end goal, except that we're all gonna die. That's basically it. But unlike the statistics that Bloomberg recently released, that we are dying younger for the first time since 1950, the end goal is that we increase that number. Maybe that is the end goal. One goal is that we increase that number and that we stop and we ask the question, what, I see that you look at that information, you see that information, you acknowledge that that information is based in statistics. Numbers are pretty concrete and we are dying at a younger rate. Now, I've acknowledged that and I've taken that in. Now, what can I do for me and my family and the people around me to change that? And we're going to find that change with a 1% improvement. I recently released an endurance nutrition program where this whole 1% improvement conversation comes in. And it comes in a big way, and as an endurance athlete, endurance athletes kind of get that 1% improvement. Because you'll see the Harvard Business Review article, and it's a really good article. It's not super hard to read. It's actually an interview. Talks about this 1% with endurance athletes. But the more I think about it and the more I realize that I need to share that 1% improvement has nothing to do with an athlete and has everything to do with the individual, regardless of whether or not you play a sport or are competitive. But the fact that you are human and you are important and your body is important and your mind and your soul and everything, and we need to value that more and value life so that we can go and live our lives the way we want it, whether that is playing with your kids in any manner you decide, or that is winning the Tour de France. It doesn't matter. It's all about continuous improvement process, which I love. This is part of my life. And we don't think about changing our mindset to always improve. But that is an opportunity that we have in our lives, is to constantly be better, to constantly find that 1% improvement. And it's not being better than somebody else. It's really about being better than we were yesterday. And sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 10 steps back. If you've read my recent blog post on coming back from loss, you know that this year I took like 5 steps forward and 20 steps back. And coming back from the miscarriage and the surgeries that I had and the chemotherapy that I had, that is hard. But I have an opportunity to continue and to rediscover those improvements and those opportunities. And some things I'm adding back that I had 6 months ago, but now is my opportunity to add them back. And I know this is a really long video, and I'm sorry for that, but thank you for watching. I just wanted to, I read that, I finally sat down and read that entire Bloomberg article. I have this Harvard Business Review article, and I really wanted to share how both of those articles are important and valid in our lives and how we choose to function, and that we have an opportunity to change those statistics by changing what happens at our dinner table. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. It is time to change what happens at our dinner table and to constantly think about how I can feel better tomorrow than I do today. And that's what I've got for you guys. I would love to know what you think, what you feel, how these articles make you feel, and what ideas you have for your 1% improvement. Maybe that's this weekend. Maybe there is a 1% improvement step that you can find and implement this weekend. And maybe we can hold each other a little accountable. All right, guys, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And if you really love this, if this speaks to you, and if you know other people who it will speak to as well, please share this. It really means so much to spread the word. All right? Thank you, guys. Have a great day.